the bridge would have been opened there, Tony, in 1896, and it was an iron bridge. And the bridge was constructed by the Phoenix company in Derby, and they had it shipped across from Liverpool by a steamer, a kind of a low-bottom steamer.
Yes.
And that was the first steamer ever came up to Gweebarra, Tony, and that was a huge event in the lives of the people as well, because that came up probably 1895, and there was huge excitement because the steamer stopped at I can't think of now the place, Fort Hurry, something, no, maybe anyway, and brought on a reporter from the Derry people.
Yes.
And the big thing was to cross the Barmouth. So there was a local pilot, I believe, and they put markings on the whole river along the channel, and they had to wait until the high tide. And the first, when they could have crossed the Barmouth, they got inside the Barmouth then and they laid anchor, and the following day they made their way up to the bridge or whatever the site was, and they pulled in there. And on a Sunday, I think it was then, everybody came there after Mass. I reckon there was up to 2,000 according to the reporter, and the lecture band came down and they played, and the captain invited people to come on board to view the boat, and caused huge excitement. That boat was carrying 240 tons of iron and steel.
That's a big weight.
Big weight, and it had to make, or some of the boats had to make, eventually they had to make a couple of trips. But that bridge, when they were taking off the steel then, Tony, one of the sad parts, one of the steel ropes snapped and killed a young man named Lumley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
An English man working on the boat, and he's buried in the Church of Ireland in Glenties, I believe.
Right,
yeah,
that's a terrible tragedy.
He was only about 20 or 21, a young fella.
Yeah.
But anyway, the bridge was built, Tony, and it was built, but it was screwed together, sort of type of thing. It was possibly designed on a railway bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. So they had it built within the year and was opened in, I think it was April 96, Tony.
96,
and
86.
I was trying to find out something about I'm sure, there'll be another big event, but there's nothing about, only I got in an obscure paper about the opening of the bridge, that first bridge. And I remember I was talking I gave it to Tom Plunkett.
Yes.
Tom Plunkett had a book there recently, a chronology of Midwest and Donegal, and I gave him that because there was lots of talk that the steel was second hand and different stories, and it came from Germany. But the Phoenix Foundry Company are supposed to have built that bridge with their own stuff. So
I see.
And that was in the report. So that would seem to verify that the steel was not a second hand bridge, It
was made, yeah.
But the sad part, Tony, was that within less than 5 years, the bridge supports were in trouble. Apparently, the bridge wouldn't have been. It would have moved a bit with storm and things. Be like any of those steel bridges. They can move a lot because they're screwed together. But the base or the pile in the river started to crumble or something, Tony.
Yes.
And that was some cause for concern. And then further on, the seawater was given the steel joists and supports to the bridge a hard time. So there was a lot of stuff happening.
A lot of repair needed.
And they were trying to do jobs. And then, of course, nobody ever foresaw the increase in transport and the weight of stuff going across the bridge. And by the 1930s and so on, there's lorries going up from Burton Port to Killybegs and vice versa, fish and different things. And because of the state of the bridge, the council tried to limit the weight that was crossing this, and they said that only vehicles weighing 1.5 tons with a load or without a load could cross the bridge.
Yeah.
And to make it difficult, we're in tar barrels and different things to make it cross, to make people cross it. But of course, the lorries in Burton Port, they were fearless. They crossed with their loads anyway.
Yes.
And eventually, Tony, in the 40s, there was a proposal came up to have to do some of the bridge. In the meantime, didn't the bridge go down in the middle?
Right.
And a big gaping hole. So they built, and they reckoned that the pallets or the not the pallets, like that, the beams, the wooden beams going across the bridge, the sleepers, like a railway.
Yes.
They were big, thick sleepers. So some of them were in danger, and they would have to be replaced. But anyway, they made a Bailey Bridge, which fitted inside the present bridge, and they fortified that up, and they put 2 gates on the bridge, and they put a watchman, a man that would open the gate and close it. So if you came to the bridge, if he was on your side, it was fine, but if he was on the other side, you had to honk your horn or whatever, and you had to wait for him to come over.
Yes.
And if you're a wife and family in the car, they all had to go out and walk over the bridge, and the man drove the car over the bridge, and on continued their journey. And in that time, Tony, people were going to Glenties to have their women, especially to have their babies. And there was one story told that this taxi driver enough to pick up this woman. She had twins, and she was coming down with Glenties, and he told her to get out and walk. And the taxi man said, "She's not walking. She's only having 2 babies." And he crossed the bridge, and they reckoned he was only over at the chapel when the bridge went down again.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, along with that, the buses then used to travel from Dunlow to Glenties.
Yes.
So they could only come as far as the Gweebara Bridge, and they would leave off their passengers there, and they would turn, and the other bus would come from Glenties, go to Portnew and come back to the bridge, and they would get off there, and people would walk across the bridge, and that's how they managed to the public transport at the time. And if you were going to Glenties, Tony, you'd go down, you'd wait on the far side of the bridge, you get a bus. If you're going to Dunlow and you want to Glenties, you came as far as the Gweebara Bridge, you got off and you walked across, and you got the other bus from the Gweebara Bridge, the other side of the bridge, up to Glenties.
Yeah.
So it made interesting times, didn't it?
Yeah, and the bridge we see today, Brian, then it's a fine specimen of a bridge today.
So Tony, the bridge that's there today, then it was the thing about that bridge was that when they started to build it, they ran into all sorts of trouble. They weren't making much progress, and there were 2.5 years on that bridge before they had even 1/10 of it done, or the hard work done.
Yeah.
And one of the things they did, I think, and I'm just going to tell you this wee story, was they built a concrete pontoon, and they put a crane on it for driving the piles and different things. But the crane was a very awkward thing, and could only float it with a full spring tide.
Right.
And it took 1.5 years to build, or something like that, and you couldn't only use it for a couple of days, and then you had to wait till next tide. So that held up the bridge as well.
Yeah, that would delay things, yeah.
Yeah, so eventually they made another steel pontoon, and they're more manoeuvrable. And they also brought onto the bridge, Tony, in the building of it, called a water duck, a boat that could cross over the river and go on dry land, the same as the Vikings have on the Liffey now.
That was a smart idea.
It wasn't a smart idea for doing work on the bridge and all that, along with the boats and everything else. So the Gweebara Bridge was eventually finished, Tony. It was finished in December 1953 and officially opened by Mr. Smith, Minister of Local Government, in February 15th February, maybe 1954.
Yeah.
And that was one of the finest bridges anybody could ever see.
Oh, definitely.
And and there was, the work that was done. It has sort of blended in with the landscape and everything now, Tony. It doesn't, it doesn't.
You wouldn't even. It's beautiful.
No, it's very beautiful bridge. Yeah,
it definitely is.
Stood the test of time, didn't it?
Big bit of history there.
When
you look back at all them
all
events,
those things,
big moments.